Hi everyone, and welcome to History 207 World Geography. Upon completing this course, you will be able to define basic geographic terminology and utilize maps and spatial data to interpret geographic terminology, locate and identify the political boundaries and geographic landmarks of the studied regions, explain the historical development of the studied regions and define and evaluate the process of regionalization, explain the political systems of the studied regions, analyze the economic development of the studied regions, and explain and evaluate human-environment interaction, and explain the cultural development of the studied regions and global interconnectedness. Let's start by looking at a map of the world. How many countries can you name? If you can't name many, you'll be able to do much better by the end of the semester. I want to show a short video clip of the author of our textbook discussing why geography matters.
Since I was here last, and it's very kind of you, Phil, to mention my latest book, Why Geography Matters. And the argument in that book, it was unfortunately not published by my favorite company, Wiley. It was published by Oxford University Press. But the argument I have in that book is that we are, as all of you will know, as a nation, the most geographically illiterate culture of consequence on the planet. You can look at tests either conducted by Gallup here in the United States or some other organization, or by Australians or by Russians, and you will find that Americans regularly wind up at the bottom of the heap when it comes to knowing about the world. It wouldn't matter if we weren't also the sole superpower of the day, which would seem to confer on us a responsibility to know the world much better than we do. And the best vehicle to get to know the world is geography. And so what I try to do when I go around the country is to try to suggest that we ought to have more geography and candidly less history and less of some other things that we waste undergraduate time with in favor of a discipline that combines many of the aspects of life that make it worth living and secondly make it worth preserving in the way that has been created in this society. So the book...
What do we study when we study geography? We study humans, we study land, we study politics, economics, religion. In short, we study the world. Geography is a lens that we use to look at the world, and one of the tools we use in this course to analyze the world is maps. We use maps in our everyday lives, such as the mental maps that allow us to navigate our day-to-day existence. But maps are more than just a set of locations. Cartography, the science of map making, has advanced significantly as our technology has advanced. Through the use of tools, we can create detailed maps that can give us a great deal of information if we know how to interpret it. We'll see throughout the semester that we can extract a great deal of data from maps. And by the end of the course, you'll have a lot of experience drawing conclusions from visual representations on maps. We're going to approach our study of our world through sort of a global neighborhood approach. Each unit will take us through a new geographic realm. Our textbook defines a realm as having three main criteria. First, there's a physical and human aspect. Sometimes we're looking at an entire continent, and sometimes we're dividing that continent into different realms because the inhabitants of the continent are diverse enough to be considered a realm on their own. We'll look at a functional aspect, and that just means the interaction between human societies and natural environments. And then we're going to look at it through a historical lens as well. How have we historically thought about realms? Figure G3 in our textbook shows how the world map is divided into realms. Realms are divided by both boundaries, such as oceans and seas, and transition zones, such as the zone between North America and Middle America, and the zone between Sub-Saharan and North Africa. Transition zones aren't sharp boundaries, but they're more fluid. They can show us how realm zones can change and shift over time. Realms include regions. For example, when we think of the United States, we think of regions such as the Northeast, the Midwest, the Southwest, etc. But how do we define these regions? By using the borders of states? Using politics? Ways of life? For example, I was born and raised in Virginia. Is Virginia a part of the South, or is it a part of the Mid-Atlantic? These questions often don't have easy answers. The text lists 5 criteria for regions. Area, which means the space that's occupied on the Earth's surface. Boundaries, nature's sharp divisions, or by using specific criteria to divide. So political boundaries, for example. Location, so sometimes a region's name contains a locational clue. And there's 2 kinds of location that we'll talk about. The rest of the criteria are homogeneity or sameness. So that can be cultural sameness or physical sameness, or it can mean both as well. And then we look at regions as systems that are marked by functional integration. So spatial systems include components and interactions within an areal extent, and that's known as a functional region. And then we also are going to look at a core, the core meaning the center of activity with the surrounding zone of interaction. We'll spend some time examining the physical aspect of geography. We'll look at the natural landscape and show how the landscape has had an impact on different realms and regions. We'll learn more about how physical features have influenced human development, activity, and movement. It's not a coincidence that early civilizations grew around rivers, such as the Tigris and the Euphrates near modern Iraq, and the Nile, because water sustained human life. There's also natural hazards, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, that have all impacted our history on this planet. We'll talk about how we're living in an era of global climate change, and what that means, and what kinds of effects it will have on our future. We can think of regions in terms of climates. Figure G7 in your text divides the planet into different climate categories. We'll be looking a lot at climate. We can also think of regions in terms of population. We can think of regions in terms of culture, in language families, in states and countries, in economic regions. The long and short of it is that we'll be using a variety of maps and the information we can glean from those maps to bring us to a greater understanding of the world we live in, which is invaluable as you embark on your life as a global citizen. I'm happy to have you along for the ride, and I look forward to exploring our world with you this semester.